warm welcome to our podcast, Meet the Expert in Sport Management. This is your podcast about topics in sport management and economics and in sport governance and politics. We will always have a look at ethical issues. This podcast is a cooperation between the Johannes Gutenberg University in Mainz and the German Olympic Academy. Our topic today is boycotts, risks. Shall the ICE Hockey World Championship be staged in Belarus and Latvia in 2021? I am Holger Preuss and my guest today is Horst Lichtner. He is the General Secretary of the International Ice Hockey Federation in Zurich, Switzerland. Welcome, Horst, and great that you are here with us.
Welcome.
My guest Horst Lichtner assumed the position as the General Secretary of the World Ice Hockey Federation in 2006. He was born in Essen, Germany in 1959 and came from the position as the Marketing Director of the German Football Association, the DFB. Before that, he had many positions in marketing and was the Marketing Director of the Teams AG, the commercial partner of the UEFA Champions League. Horst lives in Switzerland, works in Zurich, and has 2 children. I'm very happy that I welcome you, Horst, in my podcast here about sport politics, and in particular in these times where sport politics with COVID-19 and with the upcoming World Championships in Belarus and Latvia are so thrilling and taking all your time. Horst, let's start with a very easy question, but of very great interest to all our podcast listeners, as many of them are students. How did you manage to get into your position where you are now? You are coming from football. You were with the Champions League, you were with the FIFA Football World Cup, with the DFB, and suddenly you're in ice hockey?
Welcome, Holger. It's always good to talk to you. So I'm happy to try to answer your question. And in this particular point, it is actually quite an interesting story. When the IIHF, the International Ice Hockey Federation, was awarding the World Championship 1993 to Germany, which happened in the year 1990, the German Ice Hockey Federation president at the time was Otto Wanner. He was Lord Mayor of the city of Füssen. And he thought this risk for the federation is too high. And Cesar Lüthi, Fedor Radman, and myself founded a company which bought the World Championship from the German Ice Hockey Federation against a flat fee of 2 million Deutschmarks at the moment. We have then generated the budget. We have made the World Championship. We have hosted the World Championship 1993, and actually we made a profit of around 1 million. With costs of total around 12 million Deutschmarks at the time. And by that, of course, we were the first private entity who bought a world championship from a federation. As this was so exceptionally, and it worked very well, Cesar Lüthi then offered me the CEO position of CWL Marketing in April 1994. And then we had this contract already with the IHF. René Fazel was elected ice hockey president in 1994. Mm-hmm. And when the general secretary left, Jan-Åke Edvinsson, in the year 2006, he offered me the job and I took it. So it's really a funny story, because before that I was 25 years in football, and that was also very interesting.
Yes, but that was a very risky business then. I mean, to invest 2 million in something, and that could have turned out quite differently. But currently we see, and that's I think also very interesting, that more and more private entities try to enter sport, and they buy the swimming world championships, and NHL tries to get out of US and they go now to Europe or to Russia and so on. So there are private companies doing their business with sport currently, isn't it?
Well, to be honest, Holger, this whole development of professionalization of sport organizations, which started with private TV in the mid-80s, now is a very, very good business outside of Corona times. And if you know, and you're an expert, and you know how to handle this, and you have your expertise, and you have probably a group of experts around you, look at triathlon. This is a huge global organization, and they make a lot of money. They were sold as a group for around 500 million just recently. So I can just tell you, if we run world championships, normally this is a profitable business. We are a non-profit organization, but the money we generate goes back to ice hockey. And over the years, of course, same in football and others, this generates a lot of money. And you, I know you're working with the Olympic system. The Olympic Games, winter and summer in a cycle, generate more than 5 billion in 4 years, which then goes back to sport. And of course, if federations have political structures which are sometimes really difficult, it's much easier with a private entity or a company which is organized privately without politics can handle it much, much better and easier and make some profit.
Yeah, but what I really like is that you took risk already in your early life, so to say, and by taking risk, you ended in this very cool position. And I know also that you sometimes take risks and try very new things which other sport federations are not trying. And I refer now to the North-South Korean ice hockey team at the Olympic Games. I think that was very risky because taking North Koreans in and the Americans with their Nike are so putting pressure on you and so on, that could have also caused a lot of trouble. Wasn't it easy to do that, or very complicated to get the sports world behind having mixed teams and accepting North Korea?
Well, that is probably the biggest coup of René Fazel and myself we've ever done, and we probably will never get another opportunity like this to do something like this. Now, the whole thing started actually really in the brain of the president, René Fazel, and myself, and we were just two, because we had to have a spot open for Korea to play the Olympic tournament. In the men's team was fairly acceptable, but the women's team were level 27 to 33 in our world ranking, and they would have been destroyed. And the idea was, if we make two weak teams, by putting them together a little bit stronger, this was our attempt. It was a purely sportive thing. The complicated thing was to convince the people, and René and I traveled 3 times to North Korea, and that was probably the most complicated part, to get there and get to the ears of the North Korean leadership, which we got. To be honest, at the end, the decision was much more difficult in the West part with US and the normal Korea, South Korea, because the North Korean, when we were there the second time, we got the promise by at this time the prime minister, not by the leader, this dictator or this leader, I use the name. The prime minister was an over 80-year-old man, very, very nice older statesman, and he said, if South says yes, we say yes. So we went then back, and honestly, it took us half a year to convince North Korea. It took us 1.5 years to convince the rest. And what at the end in the background worked to that situation was all these geopolitical things. And I think the IOC didn't trust us at the beginning. Bach even stayed out of it and said, do what you think you do. But now, after it was successful, and probably one of the best legacy stories of the Olympic Winter Games in Korea was this mixed team of North and South Korea. It happened. We made it happen. We actually even wrote a little book about it. But at the end of the day, being in North Korea at the airport, giving back your telephone, have no internet connections, but meeting really nice people in North Korea, which at the end were really trustworthy. They have delivered everything they promised in this process. And the IOC had the guts and the mood and the power to then implement it.
Yes,
and we are very happy on that.
So I think then half of the prize Thomas Bach just got, the peace prize from South Korea, should also be given to your federation, to at the end actually to you or your president René Fasel, as you did a major part in these joint teams. I mean, yes, to accept North Korea and accepting them to send some athletes is something, but a mixed team is, I think, very special also, to show.
Let me say one thing, Holger, which I really recently discussed with the president last week. And really, it's not invented now because we talk. Why could we do it? Could we do it in a normal World Championship, Women's World Championship? We don't think so. It was possible due to the power of the Olympic brand and the Olympic values globally. So the prize goes rightfully to the IOC, to Thomas Bach and the Olympic movement. Yes, we have done it. We were the humble people executing it in the field of ice hockey, but the power came from the Olympic brand and the Olympic values.
Yes, so peace and sport, this is a huge thing. But coming to current issues, I mean, we hear and we read in the newspaper today that the next World Championships of ice hockey, which are in Belarus and Latvia, are a little, let's say, in danger in regards to that there may be boycotts of member federations or your international federations. You also may face some problems with these World Championships. So isn't this the other side of the medal? So we have North and South Korea with peace making, and now we have Belarus where we think of boycotting a nation.
Well, our principal belief is that boycotts in sport in the past history of 40, 50 years have never really achieved what the boycotts were supposed to achieve, meaning political change. They are using platforms which are in sport bigger than in probably any other area of politics, as the media platform of sport is so big and the interest and the emotional interest of fans is so big in each of the countries. So our basic belief is boycott are not really achieving their political objectives. I will not ask the legitimate reasons for people to think about it. I will not ask the idea that maybe we should show some political statements there. But the second point, I think, is sports federations like ours and all the others. We are not a political entity. We should be out of politics. We should play our sport for the fans. We should do it for the people and the athletes, but we should not try to even be politically by organizing our sports. And finally, I know that my president, if you would have him here in line now, would say, maybe we are building good bridges. Maybe it's even better to demonstrate that sport brings people together. Lastly, the Olympic idea is that bringing athletes to the field of play in a peaceful competition under fair play aspects. This is probably a much bigger message to the world than, for whatever reason, not executing our sport.
That's true. That's true. We are again talking about peace here and what we can change in our world. The problem is that some guys in this world may misuse then the World Championships. So who knows if there's a misuse of trying to get a better reputation and so on by using this peaceful sport. So this is always the other side. And you're right, we shouldn't be too political, but we all know that sport is in a way political because we are not in an empty space. So whatever you do is also something that you, support someone or please someone or make someone happy, and then we are indirectly political.
Yes, I don't disagree with you, but we should have a balanced approach. We know that the risk is there to be abused, but we also know that this is sometimes quite positive that we send the right signals to the world. For us, the biggest argument of taking these kind of thoughts and at the end also taking these kind of decisions is the security and the safety of our athletes and of our organization when we do that. If this is in risk, and we know this is a risk, and if this risk has to be considered as too big, then we have to also take the right decision and be consequent and trying to do it differently. But I would always try to achieve that with a consensus of the involved parties and not, again, as a political sign for something to punish somebody. If the consensus is on both sides, I can see that we hopefully get to good decisions altogether.
Yes, but sometimes it's not your decision if a member state is boycotting. So if Finland or Denmark or whoever is not coming, then they certainly punish their own athletes because they cannot come. But at the end, you have some teams less. But we saw that in Pyeongchang. And as being German, we can be happy, so to say, that the NHL was not participating. At the end, Germany was very strong and was winning a silver medal, which was in a way great, at least from a German perspective. The question is if all the other nations were thinking the same. So what was the feedback on this tournament when in the first glance we thought, okay, without NHL, that will be a bad tournament. But for me, as a non-ice hockey knowledgeable person, I thought it was a very interesting tournament and I saw very good ice hockey, at least what I could judge. So what was the impression of others you heard?
Okay, that's a very straight answer I can give you. We had similar concerns, but what I can tell you is, as you know, as a professor of economics, there are a lot of research done during, before, and after the Olympics. And one of the big question marks was, how are the TV ratings in North America, in Canada, and in major countries? And I can tell you, there was no significant change of the high ratings we have generated with the ice hockey tournament in those countries. And again, we have analyzed it and we think this is based on the quality of the sport we have delivered. So the people tuned into because of the Olympics, but they saw good ice hockey. They didn't see probably the 150 best players because we normally have around 150 NHL athletes at the Olympic Winter Games in the teams. But the sport of ice hockey was brilliant. It was really, as you say, we have been both there. We have enjoyed a very good tournament, and it was really tense and intense games. I was very much interested in the results of the research, and I can tell you, even the NHL was interested in showing to us that if they don't show up, the effect is big for the IOC. It is not. But the sportive credibility, of course, not having best on best compared to other sports. The president and I will swim to North America to convince the NHL to participate again in China. We will do anything possible to make it happen because we think the world deserves, at the Olympic platform, the best athletes of the world, and actually the athletes deserve that once in 4 years opportunity to showcase their ability to play sport.
But isn't that cool in a way that this kind of boycott of NHL, I mean, I could call it boycott because they boycotted to attend or to send the players to the Olympic Games. It's not a boycott of a nation or a federation, but it's a boycott of someone who can send players. And there was no outcome to them. So that proved in a way that boycotts have maybe not really an effect. And I wonder if you can remember any other occasion in ice hockey where we had a boycott before. Did that happen before, besides this NHL not participating?
Well, we had once a thing when Russia invaded Hungary in 1957.
Oh, that ago.
No, seriously. We went into history, tried to find out what is the situation, and even there, this has not destroyed Russian ability to play ice hockey, because after that they came back and they won the World Championship almost 15 times in a row. They developed the sport of ice hockey. So, the eastern and the western part of the world, even in the period of Cold War in the 70s and 80s, when the world was really cold between East and West, ice hockey has always been played. We convinced the ice hockey system with the series 1972, when Canada played Russia, or let's say a North American team played the Russian team, with the final in Russia, if you remember, 7 games, and history written in the coldest period of atomic bombs lifted to both sides and directed to both sides. Lucky enough, never executed. But so the boycott is not really something which affects. Other than the athletes have no opportunity to perform their sport.
I think I start more and more thinking here, almost at the end of our small podcast and talk here, I start thinking that there may be also chances or positive effects of boycotts. I just mentioned that Germany was so successful in the Olympic Games was only possible because of a boycott of one side. And maybe if there are some nations not coming, other nations have more opportunities, or other spectators follow the tournament and not the normal ones, which are otherwise dominating the ice hockey world.
Holger, with all due respect, and you know that I respect you very much, I would not call the NHL not showing up in Korea as a boycott. That I really have to officially refuse between you and me, and also as the General Secretary of Ice Hockey Federation. This was legitimate commercial reasons of the NHL to take a balanced vote, whether they should come or not. And of course, a presence of the Sochi Games in Russia, 2014, and the 5 Olympics before, and hopefully also the presence of the system in China in 2022 will hopefully come to a different commercial, legitimate decision of the NHL and the NHLPA. So please don't use the word boycott in this aspect.
Okay, you are right. If we take it really narrow, the word, I was more thinking of not going somewhere, not attending, and took that in a broader picture. Anyhow, enough of politics. And we should come to the end of our small podcast here, Meet the Expert. To end, I thought I would like to ask you 5 questions, and you have only a few seconds to answer each of them. Are you ready? There will be
take the challenge.
Personal, yes, yeah, I take you a challenge. And my first question is, what other sport than ice hockey would you like to lead in the world?
I would love to organize Olympic Games in Germany.
What is the best ice cream you can think of?
It is always stracciatella mixed with maple walnut.
What place do you think the Chinese will finish at the Olympic Games ice hockey tournament in 2022?
The men's will be last, and the women's will be 6th between 10.
And where would you love to have your next vacation?
I love my hometown, Engelberg. We have a paradise here. We have 700,000 overnight stays in Engelberg every year, and I'm lucky to live right next to the ski slope. And this is including the golf course we have. It's the best place in the world, and I will do holidays here.
Okay, that was an advertisement now. Maybe it was due to the fact that we have COVID and you said stay home. But interesting. And my last question to you is, how much do you like to play ice hockey yourself actively?
Honestly, both kids played ice hockey, and one is still active in the university team of Basel. I played twice, once with my boys and once with a game against FIFA, when at the time the FIFA General Secretary went on the ice as well. It was a private entity between FIFA and IHF in Zurich. And after that experience, I thought I might better refrain from playing again.
Okay, that was great. Thank you, Horst, very much for your frank answers and for this talk, and hope to see you soon again. Bye-bye and
have good luck. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
That was our podcast with Horst Lichtner, the General Secretary of the World Ice Hockey Federation. We talked about boycotts, risks, and if the ICE Hockey World Championships should be staged in Belarus and Latvia. But we also talked about North and South Korea, a joint team, peace at sport, and mega sport events. Thanks to everyone for listening, and hope to see you soon in our next podcast.